Hello friends, I am Rohan Borase and today we are going to see TCP handshaking and acknowledgement type. Let's move towards the TCP handshaking. There are three phases for TCP connection: connection establishment, data transmission, connection termination. Let's see the connection establishment. As TCP is a connection oriented, we first need to establish connection for communication. Anyone can start the connection, that is server or client. No need to establish the connection by both server or client simultaneously. Connection establishment is a three-way handshake process. For example, if a client wants to establish a connection with the server, it follows the following steps. It sends request to the server with SYN flag is equal to 1. Then, if server allows to establish a connection, it sends acknowledgement ACK is equal to 1 to client. After receiving acknowledgements, client again sends acknowledgement ACK is equal to 1 to the server. Now, data transmission. After connection establishment, for data transmission from client to server or server to client, it requires 4 windows, which are as follows: sending window and receiving window at client side, sending window and receiving window at server side. Data transmission is a full duplex process. That means data can be sent from server to client and client to server at the same time. For example, if client wants to send data to the server, it sends data, and after receiving data, server sends acknowledgement to the client. Similarly, if server wants to send the data to the client, it sends data, and after receiving data, it sends the acknowledgement to the server. After data transmission, there is a connection termination. Closing connection after sending data is one of the important processes in TCP communication. Closing connection from client to server or server to client is a three-way communication process. Closing from both server and client is a six-way communication. For example, if a client wants to terminate the connection with server, it follows the following steps. Client first sends the request to server with PIN is equal to 1. Server accepts that request and said ACK is equal to 1 to the client. Receiver gets acknowledgement and it terminates the connection after sending ACK is equal to 1 to the server. But remember one thing, here only connection between the client and server is break from the client. Server can send the data to the client until it sends the PIN flag is equal to 1 to the client. And after that, the connection between both is terminated. It means it is a total 6-way communication. Now take an example for all these three phases. Here server and here sender and receiver are there. If sender wants to send the data packet 1 to 100 bytes, it sends with SYN flag is equal to 1, ACK is equal to 0, and sequence number is equal to 1. Here, sequence number is equal to 1 to establish a connection between the sender and receiver. And sequence number is 1 for data packet from byte number 1 to 100. After sending that, receiver receives that packet, and therefore it sends the acknowledgement is equal to 101 for that packet, and sequence number 500 for the current packet. For the current packet, it is sending to the sender. Again, the sender sends that packet. Again, the sender sends another packet with data byte 101 to 200, and therefore it sends sequence number 101, and acknowledgement 551 is for the previous packet it received from the receiver. And similar way, the receiver again sends the acknowledgement 201 and sequence number 551 to the sender. Now sender does not want to send any data to the receiver, therefore it terminates the connection. Therefore it sends PIN is equal to 1 and acknowledgement 601 for the previous packet it receives from the receiver. After that, the receiver also don't want to communicate with the sender, and that means it don't want to send any data to the sender. Therefore, it sends fin packet is equal to fin flag is equal to 1 and acknowledgement is equal to 1 to the sender. And after receiving that, it sends the acknowledgement is equal to 1, and in this way the connection between sender and receiver terminates. In this example, all three phases are explained. Now let's move towards our next topic. An acknowledgement is a signal passed between communicating processes and computer to signify acknowledgement or receipt of response as a part of communication protocol. There are four types of acknowledgement: positive acknowledgement, negative acknowledgement, that is NAC, independent acknowledgement, cumulative acknowledgement. Now, positive acknowledgement. The receiver explicitly notifies the sender which packets, messages, or segments were received correctly. Positive acknowledgement therefore also implicitly informs the sender which packet were not received and provides details on the packet which need to be retransmitted. Here, sender and receiver. Sender sends the data stream 1 to the receiver, and receiver again sends the acknowledgement 1 for the data stream 1, which is it received correctly. After that, in similar way, sender sends data stream 2 and it gets the acknowledged by the receiver as a acknowledgement 2. After that, negative acknowledgement, that is NAC. The receiver explicitly notifies the sender which packets, messages, or segments were received incorrectly and thus may need to be retransmitted. In first example, we take here the first, it is a sender and it is a receiver. Then hence, sender sends the data stream 1 to the receiver, and after receiving that, it sends the acknowledgement 1. Here we take acknowledgement with respect to positive acknowledgement. After that, it sends the data stream 2 and it is not received correctly, or it is corrupted to the receiver. Therefore, the receiver again sends NAC to the sender. Therefore, that means NAC 2 means the packet number 2 is not received correctly to the receiver side. Therefore, sender again sends the data stream 2 to the receiver, and after receiving that, it sends the acknowledgement 2 for data stream 2. And in another example, here it is a server and it is a receiver, sender and receiver. After that, sender sends data stream 1, data stream 2, data stream 3, and for that, receiver sends the acknowledgement with respect to cumulative acknowledgement, that is n plus 1. Here, NAC 3 is sent, that means the packet number 2, that is data stream 2, is not received correctly to the receiver side. Hence, it sends the NAC 3, that is a packet number which is not received plus 1. And after receiving that to the sender again sends the data stream 2 to the receiver, and for that, data stream 1, data stream 2, and data stream 3, receiver cumulatively sends acknowledgement, that is acknowledgement 4, to the sender. Now let's move to the independent acknowledgement. In independent acknowledgement, there is a separate, that means single acknowledgement for every packet. Here, in first example, we take the example with respect to positive acknowledgement. Here, data stream 1 is sent. For that, we send acknowledgement 1. For data stream 2, we send acknowledgement 2. For data stream 3, again we send acknowledgement 3. And in another example, we consider acknowledgement in general, in which for data stream 1, we send acknowledgement 2. That means receiver gets the data stream 1 and it is ready to receive data stream 2. Therefore, it sends acknowledgement 2. After that, data stream 2 is sent by the sender to the receiver, and receiver again sends the acknowledgement 3. In similar fashion, it is going on. Now, the last type is cumulative acknowledgement. The receiver acknowledges that it is correctly received a packet, message, or segment in a stream, which implicitly informs the sender that the previous packets were received correctly. TCP uses cumulative acknowledgement. With its TCP sliding window. Here it is an example. Here it is a server, sender, and it is a receiver. Here data stream 1 is sent, after that data stream 2 is sent, and after that data stream 3 is sent. There is no individual acknowledgement for any data stream. There is a cumulative acknowledgement for data stream 1, 2, 3, 4. That is acknowledgement 5, which is the last data stream number plus 1. It is sent from the receiver to the server, sender, which means all data stream 1, 2, 3, and 4 are received by the receiver correctly. Thank you. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe our channel.